fell behind times. And then you breathe new life in it with new ideas and new abilities, and all those new abilities usually come with things that make more sense because we're taught as generations what makes sense with our current technologies and our current understanding with the reality. Right now, it makes sense to believe in climate change. Our kids, our generations will adapt and blend into society, finding ways of like picking up straws that are made of bamboo instead of like plastic. It's happening every fucking where, dude. Like I don't like spoons that are just like edible spoons, ones that like have a seed in it, and when you throw it away, it plants a seed. Like someone made this shit, like, and it's a thing. And some of these are cheaper than the plastic to build. And like, I don't see how you don't see that. I don't see how you see all of this progression and all of this generational like advancement, and you don't see how they become the authors of the world when the generations above them die, when they go away. Like it, it's probabilistically in our favor that progression will dominate every society. It just will. How it progresses is an argument we can
Do
have.
you think that greed produces progressiveness?
I think progression is um what's that term required. It's going to happen. Um,
Hmm. But do you think that greed breeds progressiveness?
no, I don't think, like I'm saying, like greed doesn't, like nothing breeds progressiveness except for humans. Humans breed progressiveness.
Humans
Greed
also
doesn't breed.
breed greed, right?
You're trying, no, so no, it's not just greed that progressive, like that's I don't know what you're trying to ask, because you're trying to be like greed equals progressiveness, and that's not the case. Like progressiveness is a trait of humans. We learn a thing, we adapt, we use that thing we learned to keep ourselves living longer. If we fail to do so, we die, and then we no longer are able to do so. Our minds progress by requirement. We can't prevent it. We can't stop it. It will happen. It, like, we will learn a thing and then do a thing about it or die trying. And we get better at it, and since we're more secure and safe, we learn a thing, we have learned other things as well, and we learned how to adapt towards those new things we're learning in such a way that's beneficial and long and keeps us alive longer. And we get better at doing that. That's why we, I mean, like, it's progressiveness, dude. Like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to understand. It's a required feature, and it has nothing to do with greed. I don't know why you're trying to like
Oh,
say that because we're greedy people we're progressing, and that if we weren't, like, I don't know what you're trying to say, dude.
I can see that. So I kind of wanted to end that part of the conversation because, like I said, we both aren't gonna buckle on under the weight of the other. So I think it's a stalemate.
I don't
So,
know how, but
hmm?
okay, because okay, we'll end that with you think progression isn't a thing, and I think it is a required thing. I guess.
No, I think progression is a thing. But
Okay.
I just disagree on how we come about it. We definitely have different views on how it comes about. Um,
You haven't shared yours.
my what? My view on progressiveness?
You have it, like we come to conclusions where we disagree, and then you want to change the topic, but I give a
Because
very
we
theoretical
aren't going to
about what
agree.
I think,
We
and then
we
like
aren't.
you just say like I don't understand. You like
We
throw your hands up, dude. Like I'm trying to get down to the very specific things in which we disagree with. With the other one, we came to terms with forgot the specific we were talking about, but we figured out the specifics of where we disagree. And in this one with progressiveness, I'm saying that it's a required trait of humanity, and you're saying that what now? That it's like that it only happens sometimes, or I'm
no.
just trying to understand your point of view. I don't understand.
It's okay. What I will say is you give humans the benefit of the doubt to be better, and I don't. We can agree on that at least.
So when you say that, are you saying that like some humans don't want to be better?
I'm gonna say that majority of people are neutral and can be swayed in either direction. So that means that they are not good or bad.
I'm asking if you think people, an individual, wants to be better in any way they think better is, or if they
Then
want to
that's
be worse.
too broad of a way of asking that question. Because you can say, I want to be good by just living my life, then that means they want to be good. That means nothing in the long run.
Asking if they want to be good. I'm not asking if they want to be a good person or a bad person. I'm saying, does an individual want to be better at anything or worse at anything? Does anyone ever want to be worse at something?
I don't know. I don't know. The likelihood is probably no.
I like you can probably find some very specific situations in which that might be the case and like fine fair, but like I don't know of any like off the top of my head. I'm sure like I could figure out a very specific one, but like for the most part I would argue that most people just want to improve. That's what I'm saying is progression, dude. That's like people want to be better and
And,
they might
and
not
that's
be convinced equally that their version of better is actually better. Like you could say that somebody that wants to eat more hot dogs and it'd be like a giant hot dog eating competition person sees that as an improvement, and then a person who thinks diabetes is, or no, like high cholesterol is a thing might see that as a worsening trait. Like it's subjective to that point, but the individual himself isn't seeing it as like I'm doing this because it's gonna like because I want to be worse. They're doing it because they want to be better in whatever. Like people want to progress. They learn a thing, they use what they've learned, and they adapt towards their environment to progress, or they fail to do so. And it's that survival aspect in us that requires us to be progressive, requires us, or we die trying.
but you're using progressive as a catch-all in a way because you
That's
can
fair.
want to progress by screwing over a shit ton of people to make you
Yes,
wealthy.
yes, you can.
So then
Yes,
it doesn't work.
but it does. So like, and it does because you can be convinced that fucking up, hurting somebody else to your benefit is beneficial to you, and you could be right to a degree, but at some point an individual that does that will be disadvantaged from fucking up their neighbors to the point where it would be detrimental to them. And an individual, and now as humans we know this, we have learned this trait to the point where we prevent it by being socially concerned with our neighbors to the point where we know that I can't steal your shit. Like I want it, but like I'm not going to steal it, and if I do I'll suffer the consequences. I know what's going to happen if I do that, and it no longer becomes an option. So my version of benefiting and progressing doesn't include that anymore because it isn't progression to steal a thing and then suffer the consequences for it. I'm smarter than that, and so I no longer have this method of worsening my trait by thinking that it's actually going to be beneficial because I am no longer convinced that stealing things is beneficial. Like like this is how progression works for every individual that thinks that being selfish is good. They've
I
actually,
think you might have just proven my point then.
I'm saying that like, go ahead. What do you mean by that?
So let's say for climate change, we'll go back to climate change, right? Most people will not sacrifice just because climate change is a thing, right? People would still need their greed and all that kind of stuff, right? So for them to progress, they might have to put climate change climate change solutions on the sideline, right?
Potentially. Or they might be accidentally forced to. For example, in a world where I want to drink my smoothie that I just got from Tropical Smoothie Cafe, if they only give me bamboo straws, I'm fixing the planet on accident. Like I don't have the choice to use a plastic straw in this circumstance. I'm by requirement forced to do a good thing, accidentally. And it's not even something that's like at a disadvantage to me because like I still get my straw. Like this happens with batteries, this happens with paper, this happens with products that you don't even know about. Like companies are doing what they can to progress, to be to be environmentally conscious, to lower their carbon footprint. Because guess what? They have to, because it's required, and they have to showcase it. And their stock portfolio is tied to that. Like the companies that are lowering their carbon footprint are more lucrative. So, like by definition, like we're progressing on accident. All these individuals are. Like your
Okay.
premise is just interesting to me that you don't see that. I don't see that you see accidental things as like like 40, 50 years ago we had fucking lead. 67 years ago, actually, we had lead in our gas. It was killing people. We had lead in our paint. We had lead all over the fucking place because it was super easy. It was solid. It was a solvent. It was like a wonder fucking metal. But I'm sorry, it was like fucking cancerous. We didn't know this, and it was everywhere, and it was very difficult to take out of all of our stuff, but we did because we had to because it was killing people.
Because the knife was 3 feet from your head. This is
No,
what
it
I'm.
wasn't. It wasn't.
Oh
It
my
wasn't.
goodness, Wilden.
It wasn't. It took 60 years for us to realize and to be convinced that all these random deaths and cancer issues that were like closely related, but maybe not. We did this with you. Uranium was super easy because it happened so suddenly. We figured that one out pretty quick. Lead was a different story. It took longer. It wasn't until kids started eating paint chips and like licking their toys and the paint off of their toys and then getting cancer later in life until we realized the connection. And then once we figured out the connection,
The
then
knife was 3 feet from your
we didn't
head.
know the knife existed. We weren't convinced the knife existed. Your
Oh
your
my
your premise
goodness.
is wrong because you're suggesting that everyone saw the knife and no one knew the knife was there. It could have been 3 feet, but we didn't know it was there. It was 3 feet behind us, at best. At best, and I would say the 3 feet thing is even not accurate.
Oh
The
my
whole point of
goodness.
that thing is that now we live in a world where when you pick up the gas thing, it says unleaded on it. It says unleaded because it's a reassurance that we aren't stupid enough to put lead in it anymore. And now we no longer accidentally fuck people up with killing each other over lead because like it's just not in our system anymore. It took a long time to do it, but we could do the same thing with gas and petroleum. We could do the same thing with plastics. We could, and we are. That's what I'm saying. We are doing these things. These things are happening. Like we already have bamboo straws instead of plastic straws. We already have spoons that are replacing. We already have paper products that are being replaced by sustainable growing saplings instead of deforestation. Like we're finding methods that do not leave a carbon footprint to have the products we want.
Okay,
And like,
okay, okay. We have to move on from this topic because every time we keep getting drawn back, and it's like we're both bashing against walls that aren't gonna move.
yes, I guess I just feel like I'm like giving you a ton of information and you just want to move on. But okay,
Be-
what do you want to move on to?
okay,
Like
so
2090, you don't think in 2090 we're going to be able to where do you see us in 2090? What does humanity look like to you in 2090?
I don't know, and I don't particularly care.
That's what this video is about.
No, the video is about the environment, not really about what.
The
My
title
point
of
of
the
view
video
is the
is
environment's gonna be
2090.
worse, and whoever decided to create the video has some magical idea that humanity is gonna be some magical place with some side effects, And I'm like, no, 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 no.
There is no magic to what, like the Mars thing. Sure, the flying car thing. He didn't even say flying cars were going to be a thing. I think he just like
He
animated
he
a flying.
used an animation for something, but I that
Yeah,
like that stuff I don't care for either. My issue is like to in the video he makes it out to seem like tech giants are the way of the future, and I find that's utterly ridiculous.
So I wrote tech giants on this thing when I was.
Watching it, yeah.
It's interesting you would bring that up. I agree that tech giants having artificial intelligence and having the means in which we deploy virtual reality is a very dangerous thing. I agree with that statement. We know about this shit. Everyone that's making this shit is fully aware that corporations owning this shit is a very bad idea, to the point where there's already legislation in place and being voted on, in addition to the ones that's already in place, to prevent companies from having full ownership of these things, that they become entities of their own. Like, we're already doing this. Like progression's not going to stop. We haven't, like, you're saying that corporations are going to fuck it up. They could. We could have like a doomsday situation in which we, like, the heaven or our own entities are owned by corporations. But I would argue that it's no different than what we already live in, only less segmented. Like, instead of like being a uh, digital position on their shelf, we're just like translocated into a house. But like, I owe the bank money. You owe money to everything. You have to purchase things to stay in existence. We're just, to them, we are consumers, and that may never change. And that doesn't necessarily have to. We just have to keep them in check, and we are.
How would you do
And
that? That's what the video makes it out. Like, these super corporations aren't going to have anyone other than themselves to compete against. Who's going to keep them in check? Because it didn't seem as if the governments were there to like enforce anything.
yeah,
And I mean, at some point, you can tell right now we have corporations who can buy politicians and sway votes or sway
so
policies in
you're
their favor.
suggesting that we can live in a dystopia, and I agree. We could live in a dystopia. It would still be a fucking future. Like, imagine in this dystopia, you're right, and corporations have like the means of giving us virtual reality, plugging us into a machine. That like for some reason we have to vie for like and compete with a particular one to just fund our resources to stay alive in any means. But what would that life look like? Would that life look like are we in the bottom of like a pit of despair and just like crawling at every aspect trying to stay alive, or are we all like working 20 hours, like it's suggesting that we're working very minimalistic hours and plugging in, even if it's owned by Coca-Cola, to the existence that's going to be better suited than the one we live in? I mean, you're suggesting that like even in a world that like I'm owned by Coca Cola, I can't benefit. And I wouldn't want that. But you're saying, I mean, like, even in that world that will eventually get taken down, by the way, like, because it has to, because that's how revolts work. It's how it works.
Hmm.
If a group of individuals feels like they're not free, they revolt. It
Hmm.
happens in our history all over the place,
Hmm.
everywhere. It's not going to change. That's not going to change. So you would think that corporations would know that. They would probably do what's ever in the best interest of their consumers, and they do that. They do what's in their best interest to a degree. They will not let their cash cows die. They won't. They won't do it. That's what COVID was about.
I mean,
Like,
I
literally, all
guess.
this like
Well,
stimulus check
okay,
bullshit
look.
was all like, oh shit, they're not going to have money to buy all of our shit. Let's give them money. We have money. Let's give them money so that they could buy our shit. Like, literally, that's what it was.
Wait, what? Hold on, I'm confused. What? What were you saying?
I was saying that stimulus money here in the States was the act of keeping the economy afloat. It was the idea of giving people money so that they would go then spend it in the market and keep the machine working. All that money came from somewhere. Where it came from? Taxes. Those taxes, individuals that were paying into them, individuals who were paying into them, mostly medium to large businesses, not super large businesses like Amazon. They got a free pass, but the synergies, the AT&T, like all of them paid taxes. They all paid taxes. All those taxes went to the government, then went to simulation money instead of like the fucking military like it usually goes to, and it went to us, and then we just gave it back to them. by buying all their shit. Like they know it works actually. The scary part is it works and they know it works. They don't want it to work because they don't want us to know that we don't have to be fighting for our lives to like fund this fucking crazy machine. We don't need to be. They just want us to be because like they haven't solved AI yet. They haven't like they need peons to do the labor jobs and they don't want to do it themselves.
Well, that
Like
was another